Christy down at the agency on 50th Avenue. So she told me about it.
Yeah, it's a shame that you're getting right at the end of the year where they won't have them now until.
Right. Yeah, that's what she was saying. Well, that's okay. That's okay. She'll be sending out. Knowing Melody, she'll be sending out back in. Okay. Tell me to helping her.
So, and I did that, and it's going to start to come.
Do you have a cochlear? Yes. But you don't have one. He's got one.
Just one. 5 months ago. Oh, am I glad? Yes, I am. No doubt, about it, because I haven't heard in this ear for a long, long time. I was relying just on my left ear, and I started having problems with my left ear. So I said, uh-oh, you better get something done. So that is what pushed me really into making the decision, because, okay, I don't want to become deaf. So, yeah, 5 months ago we had this put in. It's working great, really, but, noisy environment like this.
I just know that I have it. So my doctor told me.
That can't hear me.
So like back in there.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the lives.
I have to reteach the brain now.
Oh, okay. Maybe my phone has it because mine's connected to my phone. Which is an app. So I'll probably move it from there.
I'll say a
I
word.
can try that.
He said, sometimes it's so loud, just what he hears of what I said. Nothing. Yeah.
Thinking of, are you going to be standing in front of the podium or are you going to be
It's
going
fun.
back? Or right here?
I get back and I'll repeat to somebody what I thought they said.
Okay.
And then look at you with this blank expression. Or they'll start laughing, like, why are you not?
And if you can laugh about that, that's okay. But a lot of people, they start withdrawing inside.
Yeah,
They say,
well,
oh,
I felt that too.
yeah, I have to. And
When I was working, yeah.
push myself to go to teachings that I'm not going to be able to hear very well. Practice.
I know that feeling.
Okay, I think we're going to get started here. You can't hear? Can you hear me, Cindy? Okay, what is it? Am I standing in the wrong place?
No, you're fine. Just stick your dog right there.
Right there? Is that better? Yes? Okay. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our May meeting. And as I mentioned last time, May is Better Hearing and Speech Month, and so we've had some extra treats just to help celebrate May as Better Hearing and Speech Month. And we all know, in a nutshell, communication and language are vital to us as human beings, and when there's a communication breakdown, all parties suffer. So that's what our focus is here, working on communication any way we can to keep us in the loop and to keep us vital and together. So speaking of keeping us in the loop, we have an induction loop in this room. So if you have a telecoil and know what that is, you can turn it on and you will be hearing the speaker's presentation and me right now right to your hearing aid or your cochlear implant. Can I see those of you that know you have a telecoil and have it on are hearing? Oh, I like to see those thumbs up too. Great. Okay, wonderful. If you don't have a telecoil and you don't know what we're talking about, that's okay. After the meeting, grab one of those people that had their hand up and ask them to tell you about the telecoil. But we have captioning. So on the screen, you can see the words that I'm saying and the presenter that are going to be said for the rest of the meeting. Normally, we have our captioner right here in the room with us, but their job has gotten so demanding that we are having what's called a remote cart. So our cart reporter is, I'm not sure where she is, but she's hearing what I'm saying, and she's captioning what I'm being said. So, okay. Our presenter is Michelle Michaels. She is the heart of, I think I got this wrong. I think I said it like 3 times. And she is the healthcare program manager at the Arizona Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. And she's going to share her story of hearing loss and how she got to end up working with the Arizona Commission, and then what kind of work she provides for us that's vital to all of the people with hearing loss and deaf people also in the entire state of Arizona. So I'm not going to give a bigger introduction than that. We're just excited that Michelle is here for us. We're excited to see many new faces, and you will just not be disappointed with this presentation. So let's welcome Michelle Michaels. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am waiting for the laptop to come over to me, because that is how our cart provider hears me, because she's not in the room. So how does she hear when she's somewhere else? She needs to have access to my voice, so she's hearing through the laptop. And yes, it's working. Excellent. Okay, so I'm gonna take a seat here. I could stand over there, and you would sort of want to look at me over there, but you'd still want to look up here. So I'm just going to sit right down here. Pay no attention to me while I speak. Just go ahead and look at the slides and the captions. But if you want to look at me, that's okay too. Okay. I am Michelle Michaels, and that's Michelle with 1 L. I always tell people that I'm an angel, and so there's no H-E-L-L in my first name. Angel is debatable, but anyway, I work for the state of Arizona at the Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing, and I have been there for 16 years. I am hard of hearing. I have a bilateral hearing loss. That means in both of my ears. I wear hearing aids, and at some point in time in the future, I'm going to get a cochlear implant in my left ear, because it's not doing me too good right now. So anyway, I'm going to get started. Melanie asked me to talk a little bit about my story, my career, how I got to where I'm at. So if at any time you can't hear me, please raise your hand. Now, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. If you can't hear me, you're not going to know, you're not going to, right? So read the captions. If you cannot hear, please raise a hand so we know what to do, okay? One of the silly things the presenters ask is, can everybody hear me okay? And all the people who can't hear didn't hear that. So I don't ask that question. Okay, so I'm gonna do this, and it's gonna work, right? It's on. There we go, okay. Boy, I have to look in the back of my head, but I know this slide by heart. So So the state of Arizona has a Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing. It was established in 1977. And the reason it exists is because we exist. There are over 1.1 million people in Arizona who are hard of hearing. There are about 25,000 people who are culturally deaf and use American Sign Language as their primary communication. 20% of our teens now have a hearing loss. Any idea why the younger folks are getting hearing loss? Yeah, music, loud noise, right? Yeah. Yeah, those little earbuds, you know, right next to the eardrum, pounding away. So we're seeing a higher percentage of young adults getting hearing loss. Out of our babies at birth, out of every 1,000 babies in Arizona that is born, 2.5 have a hearing loss. Could be one ear, could be both ears. They could be hard of hearing, or they could be completely deaf. And so those are statistics here in Arizona. And with that many people, we need a Commission for the Deaf and the Hard of Hearing to try to identify your needs and provide programs and services for you. So in regards to programs and services, we do a lot of different things. We do outreach and education, information and referral, advocacy, empowerment, consultation. We license sign language interpreters. We have a family and youth services specialist. We have a deaf specialist, someone who helps with deaf-blind people. I mean, we do all kinds of trainings, just a whole lot of things. A couple of our programs as well are the free phone program. It's got a big long name, Arizona Telecommunications Equipment Distribution Program, or AZTDP, or just free phone program. And so we have that program. And then we have the Arizona Relay Service as well, which is a federal mandate. And so lots of programs and services. Unbelievably, with over 1 million Arizonans who are deaf or hard of hearing or deaf-blind, there are actually only 20 staff. We're located here in Phoenix, but we serve the entire state. 20 of us go, you know, we don't go 24 hours a day, but we feel like it. Even in the shower, we're thinking about work. You know, overnight, we're dreaming about it. Because we wake up and we've got ideas, and we bring them to the office. We're passionate and we're enthusiastic about what we do. Over half of us are deaf or hard of hearing. So, or licensed sign language interpreters. We have a very diverse staff so that we can reach the entire state. So that's a little bit about ACDHH. Where do I got to point it that way? There we go. Some of our major trainings that we provide, that top one is CARE. That is our healthcare training. And these trainings are 2-hour trainings. The CARE training is for healthcare providers. And Christy Abrams, our hard of hearing specialist, I hired her in July of 2019. Everybody's getting to know her now. Christy is one of the key presenters of that training, along with our deaf specialist, Kim, who is deaf and uses sign language. The CARE training we provide to hospitals, medical clinics, nursing students, you name it. And so that's a great training that we provide either in person or virtually. And then right below that is public safety. And we have a public safety training as well. And that training has been so successful that every sworn City of Phoenix officer, and the sworn officers are not just the guys and gals you see out on the street. Those are the sergeants and the detectives and the chiefs and the captains and people in the office. Every sworn officer took our training. It took us 1.5 years, every Friday morning at 6 a.m., training a huge group of them to get through 3,000. But we did that, and it was so successful that AZ Post, the Arizona Peace Officers Standards and Training Bureau, the organization that provides CEUs to the officers, actually adopted the training, had us videotape segments, put it all together. It's beautiful. And they have that on their intranet, not the internet, Not everybody can get it on their private server for their officers to take. So now any officer in the state of Arizona, any sheriff, any deputy, anybody with AZ Post can take that training online. And what they do in these trainings is they learn about us. They learn what to do if they pull over somebody who's hard of hearing, or they show up at your home and you're hard of hearing, or if you're deaf, if they go to the house and the lady who owns the house is deaf and she has a roommate who's deafblind. So they learn all about how to accommodate us and assist us. So it's a really great training. The other training that we have is the LGTW, which stands for Let's Get to Work. Now, I don't know how many of you might still be working. I intend to keep working for quite a long time because I love my job, love what I do. But for people who are looking for a job, wanting a job, when you're deaf or hard of hearing, it can be tougher to get a job because, you know, people sometimes go, you don't hear so well, I don't really want to, you know, we got somebody else. So what we've done with the Let's Get to Work training is we deliver that to employers, to recruiters, and we go in and we talk to them about how awesome we are as deaf and hard of hearing people, how the research shows that when you hire a person with a disability and you accommodate them, so you have a wheelchair ramp, or you have an assistive listening device, or you provide a sign language interpreter for your staff meeting, those kinds of accommodations, when they're provided to people who have disabilities, those people actually stay longer. They are more loyal and faithful to the company. So there's less turnover. The average cost of turning over an employee and hiring a new one is $50,000. So if employers want to reduce their turnover, we encourage them to hire deaf and hard of hearing. So those are three of the big trainings that we do on a regular basis. Okay, there we go. Oh, now this is another thing that we have. Does anybody here have a second home or a cabin up in the White Mountains or Show Low or up in Flagstaff or Williams, anywhere? Are y'all going to stay here for the summer? There's a lot of folks that do have. My best friend has a cabin up in Williams. And I know some hard of hearing people up in the White Mountains. One of the things that happened in the summer, as we know in Arizona, is we have wildfires. And wildfires can unfortunately burn down homes and towns. And so when the wildfires affect a rural area, it don't usually happen in urban areas, although it could happen on the outskirts of an urban area, up in Fountain Hills, up in there, New River, where you have a lot of brush, a lot of trees. But for me, right in the central Phoenix, probably not going to happen. But what happens is when they have a wildfire, the state Forest Service, the United States, whoever's in charge of this emergency, they will start having community meetings. And that community meeting might be in a church or a senior center or somewhere located near the fire but not in danger of being hit by the fire. And in those community meetings, they're going to talk to the people whose homes are up there, and they're going to say, here's where your shelter is, here is where we're fighting the fire, here is what the plan is, here is what the weather is doing, all of those kinds of things. And knowing that a lot of people in these rural areas that have these summer homes and stuff are older folks, a lot of hard of hearing people. You go to that community meeting and you sit there and you're like, what is he saying? What did he say, honey? What did he say? You don't really understand. And we identified this as an issue some years back. And so one of our staff members at the time worked with the Arizona Department of Emergency Military Affairs and created the ERIC, E-R-I-C program, Emergency Response Interpreter Credentialing Program. And that is for interpreters, including cart providers. And these interpreters and cart providers are trained. They actually have fire suits that they can wear. So if they're close to the fire, they can be helicoptered in to where the community center is. They set up, they interpret everything, they caption everything. So when you're at that meeting, you have complete access. If you're watching online, gee, I didn't get up to my cabin in the White Mountains this year, but I'm afraid that it's going to be impacted, and you're watching that briefing online, you will see the captions. And that is because of the ERIC program, which is something our agency started. So this ERIC program, although is often used in the wildfire season, could also be used in a situation where perhaps Palo Verde has a radiation leak. Something happens. They do drills on Palo Verde every year. If there was something like that where people needed to be evacuated, there was a community meeting, or, God forbid, an airplane crash at Sky Harbor. These people credentialed to respond to emergency situations are contacted and brought in to provide that accommodation. So that is another thing that we've done. Again, our agency, although we work one-on-one with individuals, we also try to work on systems change, creating big changes through the system throughout Arizona. And we happen to be one of the leading agencies for the deaf and the hard of hearing in the country, because we've been so successful working with consumers, working with our partners, our interagency state partners, as well as nonprofits and those kinds of things. So that's an example of, that's actual real life, what's happening there. You see the interpreter and you see the cart. Okay, there we go. Christy has never seen this picture before. Christy actually gave me the idea. Melanie asked me to talk about my story. And I watched how Christy came into our agency and had so many great ideas. And she started putting a little picture of herself as a little kid in her presentations. And I thought, I'm gonna do it too. That dress, I loved that dress. Chocolate brown, and I loved chocolate. And those little white buttons, I thought for sure they were candy. I used to play with them and try to lick them. So I'm probably, what, 4 years old, 3, 4? That's little Michelle. That's little, I know, what a great smile. And that's I got to live. I've lived longer, I'm over 60 now. so that's the other me. How did that little girl get to be that grown-up lady? Well, we're gonna talk about that. Okay, here we go, there we go. All right, anybody know what that is? Kansas City, here we come. I got a crazy little lady there. I can't sing. I can't hear well enough, but that is Kansas City. That is actually Union Station, which turns complete red for the Chiefs, go Chiefs, or blue for the Royals, go Royals. That is Kansas City, and that is where I was born, outside of Kansas City, raised up in a little town in Kansas, and moved into Kansas City when I became an adult. I actually worked at Union Station. One of my first jobs that I had was for a commodities newspaper. I worked in the office. And so that's Kansas City. That's where I grew up. Oh gosh, there I am again. Christy, you're cracking me up. She's laughing. So that is, yeah, that's me. Now I am standing at the door of our house. My dad, I grew up with 5 brothers, 2 older, 3 younger. My dad's a blue-collar union man. He was a lineman for the county, actually Kansas City Power and Light. He worked really hard. He'd work extra shifts when he worked extra shifts, he would get meal tickets. And he would save those meal tickets so that he could take us all out to dinner, because we were poor. We didn't have much. We wore hand-me-downs. But we had those books. Those are the books we had in our house. And at the top shelf is called the Book of Knowledge. It's a set of books, the Book of Knowledge. And on the bottom was one of those Encyclopedia Britannica type things. Those are all the books other than the Holy Bible. We had the Holy Bible in our house in many places, scripture, those kinds of things. But we had those books, and there I am standing at the Book of Knowledge. I love those books. I would go to those books, take them out, look at them. Couldn't read that little. But when I got older, 10, 11, I got to reading, and I would go and I'd look up words. What does that word mean? What does that stand for? How does that work? So I was very curious, and I always loved reading and writing. And I would write poetry, and I would write in my journals, and I always knew that I wanted to be a writer. That's what I wanted to do. So, being inquisitive, the Nancy Drew. So, it was, when was it? It was, I started working at the commission 16 years ago, and my boss, because I like finding out stuff. I like to know how it works. How does a watch work? How does an engine run? And so she called me Nancy Drew. She said, if there's something we need to find out, you will find it out for us. And of course, I read every Nancy Drew. When you're little, you start with the Bobbsey twins back then. So I read all the Bobbsey twins, then I read every Nancy Drew, and then I got into Shakespeare and Poe. Now, that 7th and 8th grade, I was totally doing Shakespeare and Poe at that time. Anyway, very curious. So I knew I wanted to work in communication, but we were poor. My parents did not graduate from high school. And so I didn't get to go to college. So I started working. And the first place I worked was the Kansas City Star, in the office, Kansas City Star newspaper. I was working in the office, circulation, helping sign people up. I was really good at it, and they said, you know what, our subscriber database is a mess. We want you to lead the team. I was 19 years old, and I was put in charge of leading a team to clean up the subscriber database. So that's Kansas City Star. Worked there for a little while. And then I said, you know, I really do want to work in television or radio. So I went over to the PBS station, I applied, and I got a job. Again, working in the office. That's a picture of me wearing my KCPT TV t-shirt. And I started working in the programming area and then in the traffic area. Now, if any of you have had careers in broadcasting or advertising agencies or anything like that, the word traffic doesn't mean the helicopters. Traffic means every element of the broadcast day. Every PSA, station ID, promo, commercial break, how many commercials in that break, every program, every segment of the program, how long it is. Every element of the day goes to the traffic department, and the traffic department puts it together. Now, PBS is pretty easy because you don't have commercials. You have sponsorships, but you don't have commercials. So I started working there, worked there for a couple years, and said, okay, I'm ready to make some more money. Nonprofits don't pay as well as commercial TV. So I went to KSHB in Kansas City. It was an independent station at the time, and it's commercial TV. So I got into commercial TV, working as a traffic assistant, earning a little bit more money, having a good time. Did that. And there's a picture I want to show you. After I worked in traffic for a while, I became a sales assistant. And the picture on the left is me as a sales assistant, but on the right is a picture of me still in traffic. And in both of those photos, I'm wearing a watch. That watch is what told me that I could not hear. I was sitting at on the left, the picture on the right. I'm sitting there, and those are all 2-inch videotapes, by the way. Those are all commercials stacked up. Because I got to get the commercials in, I got to ID them, I got to log them in the computer, give them a number, all that stuff, get them down to master control. And my watch would tell me, I'd set an alarm because I needed to go downstairs and get something. Go down to master control, watch a video, something. And the lady across the room, literally as far as that man sitting there at the entrance is, would tell me, Michelle, your watch is going off. And I'd be like, oh, thanks. Could not hear my alarm. And I thought, wow, I can't hear high sounds. Oh, well, no big deal. Yeah, I'm 20-something years old. No big deal. Can't hear high sounds. But that, I love looking at those watches because I'm just like, I can't hear watches now. So I worked for KSHB for a while, and then I came to Arizona. I said, you know what? Time to spread my wings. So I moved out here to Arizona. I loved Arizona since I was a kid. And I moved out here with a job lined up at Channel 5. But it wasn't ready yet. And so I had a couple months before it was going to be open. And I thought, I don't want to sit here. So I went to KTAR Radio, worked with Pat McMahon, cool dude. Worked in traffic, got to know all the radio announcers and things, and worked there for a couple months. And then Channel 5 said, okay, we're ready for you. Come on over. We want you to be our traffic manager and manage a team of 5 people handling advertising revenue of $30 million a year. And KTR said, are you sure you have to go? I'm like, yeah, I got to go back to TV. So I went to Channel 5, worked there for quite a few years. So the whole span of my broadcasting career was 12 years. But in 1992, shortly after my little brother died unexpectedly, I thought, you know, is this job really what I want to do? Kind of one of those kind of come to Jesus moments, you know? And I thought, no, I'm ready to do something else. So I let go of that, looked around, and that's how I found, well, this slide here tells you that the ADA was passed in 1990. That's George Bush Sr., President Bush, signing it, 1990. I looked around, and I found the Arizona Relay Service, which was starting up officially. See, the ADA in 1990, Title IV, says that every state and territory in the United States must provide a relay service. So people who have TTY machines can make a call to somebody who doesn't. People who need a voice carryover machine, because we didn't have caption to phone back then. CapTel, and people who have hearing but can't speak, they had hearing carryover phones. These people need equal access to the phone. So the Arizona Relay Service officially started July 1, 1993. I was hired in June of 1993, and I was the first supervisor hired to supervise the relay operators. And so what happened back then was the contract to provide the mandate, the federal mandate to provide the relay service was assigned to the Arizona Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. However, back then they were called ACHI, the Arizona Council for the Hearing Impaired. So that was the name before what we are now. And so ACHI said, okay, we've got this. So they sent out the RFP, request for proposal. We follow state procurement law. Different companies providing relay services bid on it. MCI, which became WorldCom, which became Verizon, that company got the contract for 5 years. And so from 1993 to 2002, MCI had the contract. MCI was able to set up the room, the facility, all the phone lines and things, computers and stuff, but they didn't want to set up the labor. Because we already had a pool of people working at Valley Center of the Deaf on a partial paid kind of thing. Some of them were volunteers, unofficially doing relay. So we took those operators and trained them under the federal mandate, and that became our first group of operators. So MCI partnered with Valley Center of the Deaf to provide the labor for the Arizona Relay Service, which was run officially by ACHI, which is now the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So I started in relay in June of 1993, so next month I celebrate 30 years in this field. 12 years of broadcasting, 30 years in this. God, time goes by, but every day I wake up and I'm blessed to be alive. Okay, so those are TTY machines. Again, we didn't have the CapTel for quite a while. In fact, when CapTel, that was your old CapTel landline. There was no internet, because again, 1993, right? So 1993, 1998, and went down to Tucson. I was involved with relay up till 2003. For 10 years, because they went with different companies and things. But we had the CapTel, it was the landline CapTel, and when it first came to Arizona, the CapTel company came to me. I was working at Valley Center of the Deaf by this time, and they said, we want you to represent CapTel. We want you to go out and tell people about it. And I said, sure, sign a contract with my agency, who I'm working for, and I'll do it. So I was actually the first person to go out and tell people about CapTel in Arizona. So that was maybe because 93 to 98, MCI had the contracts, then Sprint got it. They took it to Tucson. They had it for 3 years. They didn't keep it for 5. I don't know why. It came back to MCI, came back up, then they located it a different place. I have to go through all this in my mind to try to remember, but I remember working at VCD and doing CapTel outreach for the first time. All right, so that's kind of my career history, how I went from one place to the other. But Melanie wanted me to talk about my hearing journey, so that's my line that I drew this morning. I thought I'm going to make a little squiggly line. So it starts, if you start on the left and you go up and you see that bell, this is me as a young girl, Michelle my bell, people will call me. You're saying, Mom, there's ringing in my ears. Everybody has ringing, right? And Mom said, no, honey, no, not everybody has ringing in their ears. And I said, well, I always have ringing. I mean, I never not had it. I always had high-pitched ringing in both my ears. So I'm a little girl, I got ringing in my ears. But back then, in the 60s, nobody knows anything about tinnitus. So, okay, I just live with it. So I had ringing in my ears. And you see that on the left side, the top left, those 2 little hearing aids? Those are Widex CICs, completely in canals, Widex analog. So that's when I'm working at the relay service in 1993, 1994. And I'm sitting here on the laptop, scheduling people, looking out over the floor, making sure the operator's okay. And the supervisors are over here, probably 5 feet away. And they're like, Michelle. And I'm like, what? And they're like, we're asking you, we're talking to you, you're not responding. And I'm like, well, I didn't hear you. Well, maybe you should get your hearing test. Well, back and forth, right? So I got my hearing tested. And I went through vocational rehabilitation. And they said, oh, yeah, you definitely got some hearing loss. So I got my first little pair of hearing aids. I didn't wear them a lot. They were analog. Digital hadn't come. Again, this is before computer chips are really doing what they're doing now. I didn't wear them a lot. Yeah, I wear them when I was at work, so I could hear them yak, yak, yak. but otherwise, I didn't wear them. And then at the top left, but that's a little phone. I realized I can't hear on the phone at home. So I went to Radio Shack and I bought one of those phones that I could adjust the volume up. So I put it on max, and then my roommate would have to turn it down and I would turn it back up. Because back then, again, landlines, not smartphones, none of that internet kind of stuff. So I got that phone. And then I heard about the phone program, which has been at the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing for a long, long time. And so I got me a phone through there. It's the XL50 amplified phone, 50 decibels. And I love that phone. I still have it. It's in my garage. I don't have my landline anymore, but I still have it. And Vicki, the other person on my team, Christy's on my team, Vicki's on my team. Vicki's our phone lady. You've probably talked to her or heard from her or seen her. She teases me about the XL50 being my favorite phone, but it never broke. So I got that phone, and I thought, I really can't hear. I mean, it's getting worse. And by this time, I knew that my mother also had hearing loss, and it was getting worse and worse. And so I thought, I guess I got my mom's good looks and her bad ears. So I went and said, okay, I'm going to have hearing aids. And so I got the behind-the-ear digital hearing aids that I still wear today. I mean, I get new ones every couple years. So I got those, and those helped me a whole lot. But, watching TV was still a struggle. I could hear better on the phone because I would put my phone on speakerphone. Again, this is before Bluetooth. This is before made for iPhone hearing aids. So I put my phone on speakerphone, had my hearing aids in. I could hear pretty good on the phone, but I couldn't understand the TV. And I had really good speaker, stereo speakers and stuff. So I was like, I'm gonna have to turn on the captions. Ooh, I don't want to turn on the captions. But I did. I hated it. I can't read those captions and see the TV. I complained to myself, because I live alone. Well, I have a dog now, so I can complain to her anytime I want. I complained to myself for 3 weeks. It's like, boy, these captions, this is hard to read these captions on TV. But you know what? After a while, my brain adjusted, and it figured out how to do both. So now I can watch these kinds of things. I can watch TV, I can watch videos online or on my little phone, read the captions and see everything, all that. So I went to captions. So that's what that CC button is. And then, oh gosh, there's a picture of a lady and she's woo, 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 woo. So here I am, gosh, when did this happen? 49, 50 years old. I'm over 60 now, so probably about 10 years ago. I'm holding my phone up, my smartphone, Bluetooth. No, it wasn't Bluetooth, it was a BlackBerry. They didn't have Bluetooth yet. Holding the smartphone up to my left ear, and sometimes I just like, whoa, I feel like my head was vibrating. Certain tones, or was a loudness I didn't know. And then without the phone up there, sometimes I would sneeze, or I'd blow my nose, or something like that, and I would be dizzy. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And it wasn't just seasonal allergies. So I went to an ENT, and he said, well, I think you have Meniere's disease. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't get sick to my stomach, I don't throw up. And he said, well, I think that's what it is. So for a couple of years, he tried this and that, and I said, it's not, I don't think it's Meniere's. So I went up to Mayo Clinic. I saw Dr. Barrs, B-A-R-R-S. He's got a fabulous, fabulous reputation as the most awesome ENT. And he took a little CT scan of my head, and he looked and he said, oh yeah, right there on your left ear, right above, okay, I don't have a diagram of the eardrum, but past your eardrum, you got your cochlea, and you got 3 loops. Those are your vestibular canals, tell you where you are in space. The top one, it's a superior one, right below the brain. Right above that superior canal is a little bit of bone, your skull. Right above that sits your brain. And he said, you got a hole right there, above your superior canal, through the bone into your brain. And it's very rare. It's called, oh, I hope Tracy gets this. I hope she got my prep. You always prep your cart provider. Superior canal dehiscence syndrome. Let's see. You got it, yay. SCDS. And what that does, when sound goes into my ear, it seeps out into the brain and causes an imbalance. So I get wobbly a lot. I get somewhat dizzy, but just kind of off balance. And I try to, accommodate it, but it's not fun. Lots of people have vestibular issues. I'm careful, so I don't fall and things like that. But that's what's causing the issue. It's not in my right ear. And one of the things that is hopeful for me is that when I do get my CI in my left ear, because my left ear is almost my deaf ear, it's the asymmetrical, it's not the same type of loss. Dr. Stevens said that getting a CI might actually cure this imbalance. So there's hope for me. There's always hope. No matter where I'm at on my journey, there's going to be some kind of new technology, whether it's Bluetooth, made for iPhones, all of these things. There's always going to be hope. So I hope that I get to the point where I'm not kind of wobbly. Because believe me, I don't drink. In fact, little known fact about Michelle is I have never in my life been drunk. I've had a little bit of wine here and there. It's just not my thing. I don't like it. But I do like ice cream. So there you go. But yeah, I've never been drunk, so I can't say that anything like that. It's like, nope, no, sir, I've been drinking. I'm just a little wobbly because of when you tell an officer, I have superior canal dehiscence in my left ear, and he's like, okay. Because I did. When it first happened, I said, what am I going to do if I got pulled over and they made me walk a line or something? And I was like that. Just tell them you have this, and I'll give you a note. So, but I know some of y'all know what I'm talking about with the dizziness. So that's my hearing journey, and the future has a lot of hope in it. Okay, here we go, back to here. So I'm gonna start wrapping this up. So the Hard of Hearing program, I am the Hearing Healthcare Program Manager for the state. I manage hearing healthcare programs and services, including the Hard of Hearing program. Christy is on my team. Vicki, the phone lady, is on my team. And I love doing what I'm doing. We have the phone program, the Arizona Relay Service, outreach and education. A lot of businesses want to know how to handle relay calls, so we train them. And then we call them the relay-friendly businesses. So we have that, outreach and education. The HHAP is the Hearing Healthcare Assistance Project. I'm going to show in a minute. You're going to see another picture you haven't seen, Christy. So that's the Hearing Healthcare Assistance Project. And that is what we started with ASU and now have expanded to NAU, and we'll be expanding to the U of A. And what this is for low-income adults who really cannot afford hearing aids. They don't have any insurance coverage. They're not a veteran. They're not an enrolled tribal member, so they don't have any benefits through the Indian Health Service. These folks, who are very limited income, I mean, they can't go out and spend $5,000 on hearing aids, even $1,200 for some of these over-the-counter ones. And so this project is designed to help them get free hearing health care. And I call it hearing health care. I don't call it hearing aids, because you all are here today because it is not just about the hearing aid. It is not just about the cochlear implant. If it were, you would not be here. If the hearing aid or the cochlear implant fixed everything, you would not be here. But you're here because there's still more to learn. Whether it's advocacy strategies, how to get an accommodation at the movie theater, at the doctor's office, etc. If you get called to be on a jury, you're here to learn, and so we love sharing things. You learn about CIs, all the great speakers you have, all the latest stuff about over-the-counter hearing aids and things. So you're here because it's not just about the ear. So hearing health care, the way I designed it, was it includes what is called oral, A-U-R-A-L, oral rehabilitation. Most of us can speak okay. Most of us lost our hearing after we learned to speak, but our ears, the auditory doesn't work as well. Oral rehabilitation teaches you how to actually work with your hearing aid, how to connect it to other devices, how to use assistive technology, how to advocate for yourself, how to communicate better with your husband or your wife, your partner, or maybe your grown child. Those communication strategies, instead of going, huh, what? Or, stop talking to me from the net, like that. You go, honey, remember? I need to be able to see you. Or, could you repeat that? Or, what I heard was, see, you learn how to do that kind of active listening and polite discourse, so you don't get so many fights and things going on. So oral rehabilitation is part of this, and it is free. Everything in the Hearing Healthcare Assistance Project is free. So Christy takes the brunt of this. She is the one who everybody emails her and calls her and says, I need. And she sources it and finds out what the best thing is for them. It could be that project there. So I'm thrilled. I've been at the agency for 16 years. We started this when I got promoted to manager in 2017. I started brainstorming this because we had been hearing for decades that, people who are low income, particularly older adults, need help getting hearing aids. And so I started brainstorming it, and that is what that is. That is a picture of, when we moved into our new building where we're at first I was in this one office, but then they said, we want you to move over to this other office. I'm like, okay, I'll move everything over to this other office. That's the second office. Now I'm in another spot. I'll move whatever they're telling me to, but that is an entire wall. in my office. It's at the office where Klatte is now, right next to Carmen's office. That is my entire wall. Those are those big sticky notes that you can post-it notes you can put up on your wall. And there's all kinds of ideas. And see, I went in, my boss, Carmen, best boss in the world. You're lucky if you can work for her. She is a certified public manager. And I used to look at that. I have my bachelor's degree. I graduated cum laude from ASU. I put myself through school. I started when I was 30. I moved out here. And I just started going to college and kicking out loans and put myself through and worked full time. But I would sit there and I would go, Carmen, what is that CPM? What is that? And she said, certified public manager. So I looked and they had it's a 1-year certificate program at ASU. So I went through that. It's a brilliant program for people who work in public service for the government. And if you're in management, because it teaches you to think about unintended consequences. How do you achieve things, projects, case analysis, all kinds of, the stuff I do, strategic analysis, research, all that kind of stuff. And so this is basically my 1-year certified public manager brain splattered on a wall, trying to think of every single thing. How would we make this project? How do we sustain it? Where would we get the funding? How would people access it? All the different issues that we would have. All the research showing the need for it. How do we justify to the legislature that this is something that we need an appropriation from our generous fund balance? We had a fund, it didn't cost anything, nobody had got any charged anything extra. We had the money there. Can we use some of that to do this? And so that's my brainstorm. And that's how the Hearing Healthcare Assistance Project came to be. So it's going strong. Now, again, we've expanded to NAU, and soon we will be down at U of A. It's at the universities, the audiology clinics. So audiologists and students are assisting the people we refer, and it's wonderful. Okay, so this is my other name. Now, my boss, Carmen, called me Nancy Drew, because statistics, research, analysis, figuring things out. The executive director of our agency is Sherry Collins. She just celebrated 25 years at our agency. And she calls me, I'm doing a CC at my chest. This is a deaf sign for captioning cop, because captioning is important. As my mother lost her hearing, she became very dependent on the CapTel. And we would write back and forth to her on a whiteboard or pieces of paper, things like that. Again, that was before we had our smartphones with speech to text on them. But I am a big, strong advocate for captioning. I was a founding director of the Global Alliance of Speech to Text Captioning, which is an international organization working towards improving captions, whether they're television, phone, in person, whatever. And so I was a founding member of that. I'm still on many of their committees. And what happened, okay, that's the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. They're the ones who monitor broadcast captioning. And the year before last, we had here we had the Super Bowl, right? So not this year, but last year. And it was NBC. Every Super Bowl year, different networks get it. NBC got it. And NBC, the network, had actual, real, certified, trained CART captioners creating the captions. Our local station failed to pass through those captions, and they left on their ASR, automatic speech recognition. That is a photo of my TV of the opening ceremony for the Super Bowl, and it says, "With the voice Southern Angel, Mickey Guyton, who's he see, the hot soup, whose butts cry or lee." That is not acceptable captioning. I'm sorry, it's not. So I filed a complaint with the FCC. The FCC sent the complaint to Channel 12, KPNX. KPNX said, they sent it out to whoever who said, no, your captions were fine, some company. The FCC came back to me and said, they say the captions were fine. And I said, I'm going to appeal this decision. I have photos. I sent the photos to the FCC. They sent it to the network. The network said, we totally had the correct captions. We don't know what the local station did. The FCC replied and said, we can't seem to figure out what happened. Sorry, but keep complaining. You're the only one who complained about the captions of the Super Bowl. So I keep complaining because just like Ron Moe there is so strong in getting, assistive listening systems set up, looping, these kinds of things. We need looping, we need assistive listening systems, we need Wi-Fi over audio, whatever works. We need accurate captions. And that's just a Super Bowl, that's just entertainment, it ain't life or death. But when the train derailed in Tempe a couple years ago, there were no accurate captions. If you lived in Tempe and you were deaf or hard of hearing and you turned on your TV to try to find out, because you can't turn on your radio, right? If you're deaf, radio ain't gonna help you. You don't know. The train derailment, you're looking at that and you don't know. You see pictures. Are they evacuating? Should I leave? We need access to accurate captions that make sense. So I am presenting at HLAA in New Orleans. The first morning, Thursday morning, 9 o'clock, please come see me. I will be presenting with the Global Alliance about what you can do to help us change broadcast captioning so that it's good captions for us. So, captioning cop, I'm not going to ever stop. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. The other big thing, and you all have in front of you a flyer, the other big thing that we have gotten into is exactly what do older people 55 and over, who are deaf or hard of hearing, what do you need? And especially as it relates to healthcare. Because we all go to doctors, and the older we get, we tend to go to doctors more. So what do you need in healthcare? What are your barriers? What's your experience? Have you ever been in a hospital? Have you ever been in a skilled nursing facility? Have you ever had to go to outpatient rehab? Did you get the accommodations that you need? Did they communicate effectively with you? So y'all have this flyer. This project is called Age of Access, meaning aging and accessibility. And this is going to be a permanent project that ACDHH has taken up. Just like we got the CARE training, the public safety training, the Let's Get to Work training, the ERIC program for community meetings, wildfires, all that. Now we're starting Age of Access, and we are developing a special website just for older people called Age of Access. Deaf and hard of hearing older people can go to this website. It's not live yet, we're working on it. And you're gonna be able to get all your information about reimbursement for respite care and all these kinds of things. So we're doing a survey, and it's got a little QR code, that's that square with all that black stuff in it. You can take your phone and put it at there and scan it with your camera, and it'll send you to the internet, or you can just go home to your laptop and type in that link, https://bit.ly/ACDHH senior. Type that in, it'll take you to the survey, 15 minutes most. I filled it out because I am over 55. Christy, you filled it out, right? Are you 55? You over 55? You filled it out? Okay, all right, good. I thought she was. I thought we celebrated your double nickel. Yeah. So we want what? Double nickel. Yeah, 5-5. So we want everybody to fill out the survey because we have a contract with Gallaudet University, and they have statisticians. That is a hard word to say. Did you spell it right? They have statisticians. Yeah, I don't know how they spell that. They have people, research people, who are going to take all the responses and get a profile of what the need is for specifically deaf and hard of hearing adults age 55 plus. So Age of Access, we had a big kickoff event. It was so fun. That's people walking in. I'm going to show you. There we go. That's a picture of people. And then that's a little video. There's just background noise, so don't worry about not hearing. Just a little video. That was just when it was just getting started. It was, oh, there is noise. Standing room only. It was standing room only. We had 20 vendors, you know, AARP and all those folks came. So there's a picture. And our presenter, we flew him in from Washington. He's a, what is he, a neuropsychologist, I think? Deaf man. Totally blew the house down with this great presentation about dementia. My father, God rest his soul, died at 88 from Alzheimer's. My aunt died from Lewy body, which is a different type of dementia. He talked about dementia, and I know all about dementia because I worked with the Governor's Advisory Council on Aging in developing the Arizona State Plan on Alzheimer's. And that was a multi-year project. And so there's, you know, he talked all about dementia, the different types, frontal temporal lobe. This is really, really sad kind of dementia. My friend Linda is 60 and she just got it. So her body is strong and healthy and will keep on living, but her brain, unfortunately, will not. So he talked all about dementia and what we can do to prevent it. And one of the things that you're doing today is you're all here, you're engaged, you're learning, your brains are working, and this is actually helping you. If you're wearing cochlear implants and hearing aids, and you're asking for and getting accommodations, your brain is engaged, your body is moving. Yeah, we're gonna eat some sweet stuff, but I know you ate protein today. But you know, the Mediterranean diet, he talked all about all these kinds of things and explained it. It was awesome. And we wanna do this again, but we gotta get a bigger space. We're gonna have to get a hotel conference room because we had hundreds of people just standing room only. So that was the kickoff of this project. And there we go. So there's your survey, there's your paper. And there's my contact info. Did I do it right? 1356. I still use military time from being in television broadcasting. You're on a 24-hour day. Once you do military time for 12 years, everything in my house is on military time. So it's 1356, which means it's 4 minutes to 1400, which means it's 4 minutes to 2 p.m. Did I do that okay? Okay, all right. So that's going to wrap that up, but I am going to take any questions that you might have, which probably means somebody has to have a microphone or something. Melanie. You want me to stand over there? Or, okay. I could stand over there if you need me to.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Do we have any questions for Michelle? She gave us so much information. There were some new programs that I heard about that I wasn't aware of, and that's great. But I'm going to open it up to you so you can ask some questions here.
Do you still have the whistling? Do you still have the tinnitus in your ears?
Yeah, my tinnitus never went away. I do have my, yeah.
I have the ocean constantly. When you get cochlear implants, does that go away?
When you get a cochlear implant, does tinnitus go away? Here's the thing with tinnitus, as far as I know. And again, I always tell people I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed audiologist or anything like that. And your best resource for tinnitus information is www.ata.org, the American Tinnitus Association. Tinnitus, for a lot of us, is forever. For some people, it's temporary. If you ever went to a rock concert, and come on, I know some of you guys did. You went to a rock concert, you had a great time, you came out and your ears were ringing, that's tinnitus. But it's a temporary threshold shift, and it goes away. But for some people, it stays. A lot of rockers get tinnitus. What happens when I wear my hearing aids is, and I assume the same thing as with the cochlear implant, is it's masking that tinnitus. So I'm not hearing it because I'm hearing other sounds. And so I don't really hear it with my hearing aids on, and I never hear it in the shower. and I do not wear my hearing aids in the shower. If you get in the shower, listen. Do you hear tinnitus? No, because there's a sound that is masking it, and it's that sound of water. But when I take my hearing aids off at night, I put them in a little recharger, I have an overhead fan going, because otherwise I will be like, right? So, hope that answers your question.
See, my hearing aid makes the tinnitus worse. In fact, after a while, I have to take it over my head, like ready to explode. So when I wear the hearing aid, the tinnitus, it magnifies it. It's worse.
So your hearing aid is making your tinnitus sound worse.
Right.
Yeah. Have you talked to your audiologist?
No, in fact, I just got a new referral, so I'm going to go.
Okay. Be sure you tell your audiologist, because they can adjust the frequencies of what you're hearing as well. And so they can actually determine what frequency your tinnitus is at, and then adjust. And they can teach you about white noise and gray noise and different ways to mask. Yeah.
Hi, hello. Would you again tell us about low-income help and the name of the project or program?
Sure. So the program that we started is called the Hearing Healthcare Assistance Project, or the HHAP, HAP for short. And that's what it's called. And we recommend anybody who has any question about being hard of hearing, accommodations, the ADA, hearing aids, whatever, contact Christy. She's our hard of hearing specialist. That was a job I did for a long, long time. And she's going to help you figure it all out, because she knows. Christy lost most of her hearing at the age of 6. And she has hearing aids in both of her ears. And she's going to get a cochlear implant. She's going to do it. Okay, next question. I hope that answered. Yeah, that did. Yeah. Next question. Fred Williams, I know you always have a good question for me.
Michelle, we heard about the Arizona legislature taking a hard look at, you know what I'm going to say. Can you give us any idea why they're doing that?
So what Fred is talking about is the Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and the Blind, ASDB. All state agencies periodically go through something called a sunset review, which means the agency, without further legislative action, will at some point cease to exist. And that can happen to any agency, at any level, or any little agency, or any part of a big agency. So every state agency goes through this process. Some go through every 8 years, 10 years, sometimes it's 9 years. The legislature decides. So recently, the Arizona State Schools for the Deaf and Blind came up to their sunset review. And the legislator got to say, do you continue or not? Do we continue to fund this agency? Do we continue to serve deaf and deaf-blind kids, K through 12, or not? So there was a lot of debate, back and forth, back and forth. Some didn't want it, some wanted it, some wanted 8 years, some wanted 4 years. They settled on extending it for 4 more years. So it is set to stay for 4 more years. I am not our director of policy. That is a lady named Nikki, Nikki, and she is actually a director. I'm a manager. So we have our frontline staff, we have a manager, and we have a director. So she's our director of public policy, so she keeps tabs on all of this. Arizona State School for the Deaf and Blind, we've thought as an agency, is very important. When you have a deaf-blind child, how are you going to educate that child? In a regular school? Probably going to be pretty difficult. In a specialized school, so they can teach them manual sign language, tactile sign language, like Helen Keller. Just because somebody has a disability doesn't mean they can't learn and can't become productive citizens, get a job, that kind of thing. So ASDB was extended for 4 more years. And we'll see. Governor Hobbs signed the bill extending them for 4 years and said, I really want the legislature next year to look at maybe extending it a little bit longer, because they can. They don't have to wait 4 years and then take action. So we'll see what happens. But at least at this point, these children will not all be sent somewhere else. They'll get to stay. And you know, when you're a kid, you want to, any of you military families, you probably moved a lot. We didn't. I got to stay pretty much at my same schools most of the time. But when you're uprooted as a kid, you got to go to a new school, you got to meet new friends, all that stuff. It's hard on a kid. And if you've got a disability, it's even harder. So thanks for that question. Any others? That's the 205 alarm. 205, get Michelle out of here. Any other questions for me? Oh, Fred, with a follow-up.
We get a lot of questions from our members about over-the-counter hearing aids. Mm-hmm. Can you, and we don't have good answers, I'm really not sure what to say about it. Yeah. Can you say anything about how that is changing the environment so far?
Yeah, great question. Over-the-counter hearing aids. So far, on a federal level, we haven't been able to get Medicare to cover dental, hearing, vision. We'd like Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and vision for older folks. But, you know, and hearing aid coverage hasn't been uniform with private insurers serving the working adults. So there was a need for something. And so the FDA and all them, they got together, Congress, and passed the Over-the-Counter Hearing Aid Act, which became effective in August. Was it August or October?
October.
October last year. And so what this did was it took hearing aids and allowed certain types to be sold over the counter without seeing an audiologist or a hearing aid dispenser or your doctor or your nurse. And so it is legal. You can go to Walgreens and buy a set of hearing aids. You can go to CVS, Best Buy. You can go online. And you can buy hearing aids. And the prices right now, I've seen $200 for two. I've seen $2,200 for two over the counter. Prices, there are some prices for over-the-counter hearing aids that are more expensive than getting prescription hearing aids, which is what most of us are probably wearing. Prescription hearing aid is not an over-the-counter hearing aid. You get prescription hearing aids at Costco, Sam's Club, for less than some of the ones that are selling over the counter. But you can also get $200 ones over the counter. You know, will it work? Maybe. But, you know, my main concern with over-the-counter hearing aids is that nobody's looking in the ear canal. And if nobody looks in your ear canal, then they don't know whether you're packed full of wax, and that's why you can't hear. Because the ear can't get, the sound can't get to your eardrum. If you don't have wax in there, they need to at least look at your eardrum. Is it bulging? Is it pink? Is it oozing? Is there a middle ear infection? Middle ear infection causes a conductive hearing loss. You can't hear as well. You know, you ever get a cold, you're all stuffed up and I can't hear as well? That's a middle ear issue, conductive. Is there scar tissue on that eardrum? Were you close to a firecracker when you were a kid and it went off and it hurt your ear and you said, Mommy, my ear hurts, and after a while it stopped hurting because it grew scar tissue? So that's going to create a conductive loss because that eardrum is not going to vibrate as well. So my concern is somebody needs to look in your ear before you buy an over-the-counter hearing aid. Get somebody to look, your doctor, your nurse. And, you know, they have these little tests that you can do online, but there's nothing like sitting inside a soundproof booth, going through a diagnostic audiology, which is what an audiologist will provide. A hearing aid dispenser will provide a hearing test in a soundproof booth, but it's not diagnostic. It is not diagnostic audiology. That is a master's level or a PhD level audiologist. So there's a difference in what they do. But you know, I really recommend do get a hearing test, so you know what you're buying is going to fit that hearing level. Some of these aids can be adjusted a little bit, some of them can't. They all have to have volume control so you can't hurt your hearing, hopefully. They are not for anyone under the age of 18. Do not buy these for children. Children need specialized care. They're still developing language, and so they need special care. So over-the-counter hearing aids, I think, will benefit some people. New market, going to be a shakeout. Companies have already come and gone. Bose had a hearing aid, came and gone. They just decided to use their technology to sell it to another company that's making hearing aids with Bose technology. But Bose got out of the market because it's very expensive to develop, to do the R&D, the research and development, and do all the marketing and reach out to the tens of thousands of hearing aid dispensers and audiologists across the country to try to get them to take the over-the-counter hearing aid onto their practice, as well as getting the information out to hundreds of millions of people who need to know. So just be careful with that. Make sure you have a money-back guarantee. You can return it within the return days, if it's a 45 or 30 days or whatever, so you can get your money back. If you have to ship it back, do you have to pay the shipping? These are kinds of questions because you don't want to lose your money. But I think it will help some people. At least it raises awareness of hearing as a hearing healthcare issue. When we hear better, we stay more engaged. We have lesser chance of developing dementia earlier than what we should. If we were going to do it, we don't fall as often because we hear better. So again, hearing better is a healthcare issue. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I do. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Because we do have special treats, because May is Better Hearing and Speech Month, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and you can all go back and get a little bit of the sugar high treats, which is great. And then I have a couple of brief announcements to make and just give you an idea of where we'll be at next year when we get started. So we're going to get a 5-minute break. I should probably set my alarm again since that worked so well. Okay.
In the application for the TED Talk.
Yeah. I didn't do a TED Talk. That's the first time I've ever delivered that one. I made that one this weekend.
But we haven't given it.
grateful we got him. That was a guardrail adopted. People really connect when you know you've been through it.
Been through it and is still going.
Something happened. Something's not working right now. I was on the telecoil all during your thing, and I went back to the microphone.
Okay, who's hearing my alarm? Thank you. Okay.
In the bucket, where's the bucket?
What?
No. Little bucket.
Right here.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so we just have a little announcements. If we could just kind of pull ourselves back to our tables here. I think the best part is socializing, and that's what we're doing. Oh, there we go. Okay. I just have a couple of announcements. As Michelle mentioned, she will be presenting at the Hearing Loss Convention in New Orleans. There still is time for you to make plans for a quick trip if you'd like to go there. And if anybody, the registration form is on the HLAA National's website. And, okay, I had a copy of the register. Oh, here we go. I also have a hard copy. So if there's anybody who thinks that, wow, I really would like to go and I can still sign up. If you'd like, come and get the hard copy and take a look at it and see if you want to attend. So that's one thing I wanted to say. Another thing is part of Better Hearing and Speech Month. We kind of took a look at this year has been a rebuilding year. We started out in person in October for the first time in a couple of years. And we did also start out with some hybrid meetings, but we are still running through some glitches with those hybrid meetings, and we felt that you people, you members that are making the effort to actually come to the meetings in person, we wanted to focus on that. So that's why our meetings have not been hybrid, but we're still going to work on that. But along with the meetings being in person, I just wanted to mention there have been a couple of people, and I got this from the sign-in, so I hope everyone signed in accurately. We'd like to kind of acknowledge, actually, Donna and Paul Brown are not here today, so they kind of bumped themselves out of the acknowledgement. We were going to acknowledge individuals that have been to every meeting this year from October of 2022 until today. But we still have a couple of others, Marilyn Hoppy and Cindy Steinman. You want to just raise your hand or stand up? They have been here supporting us and being great. And then also Jack and Sue Wells have been here. Also, just a big thank you to Jack and Sue Wells, who have been handling our refreshments for all of our meetings. Sue has done a lovely job of setting up a very enjoyable table. If there's something for St. Patrick's Day, for our March meeting, she had decorations for that, or for Valentine's Day, there were special decorations. And they're in the process of, as many people, not many, I guess, but as some people that in our chapter actually have moving back to be closer to family. So we're not quite sure yet when Jack and Sue will be leaving us, but let's give them a big round of all applause for all their work and the refreshments, and know that if you're interested in volunteering, if you'd say, hey, I'd like to be involved in this organization a little bit more, we've got refreshments that we're looking for, so that would be great. Okay, we do have a raffle. We have okay. Oh, yeah. What are you going to fix through that?
We have some bundolinis to go home. Not presents, but there are some boxes. Lots of them.
Okay, so the raffles, we do try to make the raffles kind of hearing related, but today we're going to make them sweets related. So the first one is the last four numbers, 1122. Oh, Dick. Okay, great. Yep, you have to come up and choose one of the okay. All right. We also wanted to thank Stewart over here, who is helping with the raffle, but he also helps us with our technology, with the cart, and he is a part of First Presbyterian Church here. So we value his support for us to make this all work. This room, as I said before, has an induction loop, and that is the reason why we meet here in Sun City. So, okay, next one is 1128. Oh. Okay, so as I mentioned in one of our emails, we do take a break for the summer. This is the last meeting of spring, but then we will start again in October. We'll be here, we'll have the very same timing, or maybe different by 15 minutes, I don't know for sure, but things have been pretty consistent for the past 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, as long as we've been here. So just keep in mind, just keep that second Tuesday of the month open. If you go to your doctor and they want you to schedule an appointment, just know that, nope, can't be done on the second Tuesday of the month, so you can join us here. Because as today, as we learned so much, that's what we like to share information and education. Those are some of the, that's what hearing loss, HLAA, is all about, the organization. Okay, last one is 1116. Is that Ann? Okay, thank you. All right, great. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for this great presentation, Michelle, and it was good to see you. And know that, as Michelle said, Christy is the kind of like the eyes and ears of this new hearing healthcare assistance program. She has made my life so easy. I used to always get calls from people asking about hearing aids, asking about financial support. And all I could say was, I'm not the person that can help you, but I know somebody who can give you good information. And initially it was kind of general to the Arizona Commission, but boy, isn't it great to be able to say, Christy Abrams is going to help you out, and I can share that information. So we just are so happy for this program. And it's something you may want to think about. Sometimes I still do get people calling me and saying, hey, you know, I've got a bunch of old hearing aids. What can I do with them? And so that's something that, you know, we share and pass on with Christy, because hearing aids can be refurbished. So it's great. So thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you for just being here and being a part of our group. If you know someone else that could benefit from a support group like this, share the information with them and let them know. Send me, I'm more than fine to receive an email. I get them occasionally from people. Sometimes Christy does send these people back to me, and I can share information about our chapter meeting. So thank you all very much for coming. Thank you. Okay.